It is 1592. London is in crisis. The plague has returned with force. Over 10,000 are dead. The bells toll so often that parish sextons fall ill from exhaustion. By law, every infected house is marked with a red cross. Some doors bear scratches, where the paint has run dry, applied with filth or blood. The city shuts its gates to travelers. But inside, there's no escape. South of Bishopsgate, just outside the old Roman wall, a man walks with purpose. He wears a deep blue doublet trimmed with imported velvet. He is not a nobleman, but dresses like one. This is a violation of sumptuary law. No constable stops him. Few dare. His boots are polished. The poor make way. He owns 5 properties in this part of London. 3 are on Houndsditch, the others off the alley behind Creechurch Lane. Timber-framed. Overhanging and sinking on one side, these tenements rent for far more than they're worth. The tenants are sick. Many cannot work. D. Extorts payment anyway. Coin, chickens, favors, or the keys to a child's bedding. They call him Master of the Window. He appears without warning, watching from above before hammering on a door. Those who answer must pay. Those who don't are dragged out. He hires nightmen to do this work. Men who empty privies by trade but now throw families into the street. Inside one of his buildings, 4 families share 2 rooms. The ceiling drips. The corners, rats chew the bodies of dead fleas. A child coughs blood into straw bedding. His mother cannot read the royal proclamation nailed to the door, but she knows its meaning. Plague. No one enters, no one leaves. She cannot afford a white cloth to signal for bread. No constable comes. This area falls outside the walls, technically under the Bishop of London's jurisdiction. The man uses this to his advantage. He reports to no city court. Constables here are underpaid. Coin slipped into the palm is worth more than a complaint shouted by a tenant. One of them, a watchman named Ellis, is drunk most nights, and, blind in one eye, is told who to ignore. The man receives reports. One tenant dares to withhold payment, citing illness. The man arrives with 3 laborers, tip the family's belongings into the street. A stool, a ladle, a dead dog, and a woman still too weak to stand. The man makes a speech his neighbors. Watch, this is mercy, he says. You may die in the open, but not on my floor. He wears sable trim that day. A fur legally reserved for higher nobility. But no one enforces the law here. That night, one of the evicted tenants dies. Body is left outside the parish line until dawn. Cart collects her with others. Cartman doesn't ask for names. He stacks the corpses and moves on. The child is gone. No one knows where. Back in his own home, the upper floors of a former print shop, the man dines alone. The bread is thick and pale. His servant buys it from a woman who stretches the flour with powdered bone. He drinks ale watered down by half. He knows, but it doesn't matter. The vendors are his tenants. He charges rent on their stalls and cellars. From his window, he watches the river. Wherries dart across the Thames like beetles on a pond. The bridge is clogged with traffic. London grows by the hour. More mouths, more coins. Theaters are shuttered. The Globe was meant to open nearby, but plague delays everything. The man owns a plot near Southwark, just across the river. He plans to raise the rent once it's built. For now, he deals in rooms, in sickness, in silence. By the 3rd day, 2 of his tenants die in the same room. A neighbor reports them. The watchman does nothing. The man sends a locksmith to change the bolt. He now rents the space to 7 instead of 4. He instructs them to keep the windows shuttered, even in heat. One boy among them can read. He was taught by an uncle who worked at a scriptorium before the presses came. The boy reads the warning pamphlet nailed to the butcher's stall. Do not touch the sick. Do not bury the dead at night. Do not gather. The others listen, but cannot read for themselves. The man likes it that way. He fines them for illegal gatherings when they speak too loudly. He claims this keeps infection down. 3. Apprentices pass by that night. They've left their master's house early, fed up with long hours and empty bellies. They see the man in his furs, striding across the alley. They whisper curses. One spits. The man says nothing, but later he finds the boy's master. He tells him what the apprentices did. One is whipped, the others are returned. Their term extended. Man sits by candlelight. His ledger is full. He calculates that even if another outbreak comes, even if half his tenants die, he will make more next week than last. They always come back. Always, by now, the plague is worse. Bell ringers cannot keep up. Some parishes run out of coffins. Gravediggers dig too deep pits. The man watches from his window. He sharpens his quill. Tomorrow, he will raise the rent again. Morning. The city stirs, if only out of necessity. The landlord's servant, a boy of 13 with a crooked foot, lights the fire. His bed is a sack of straw in the corner, where mice gather at night. He is not paid. He is not apprenticed. He is simply owned, in effect, by debt. His mother was late on rent last winter. The landlord offered a trade. The landlord breakfasts on eel and black bread. The bread tastes of lime. The baker stretches flour with ground plaster again. He does not care. He buys it cheap and finds the baker double for using the alley without a license. He eats it anyway. Outside, Thames water sloshes at the foot of Billingsgate. The river is filled with ferries and waste. Watermen bicker as they row. Landlord pays them to spy. They report which tenants cross the river, who visits the cathedral, who tries to flee the city. On the south bank, the playhouses remain closed. A brothel near the Bear Garden is shuttered for plague. Its workers beg on the street. One tries to rent a room in the landlord's lowest property. He doubles the rent. She pays. Later, she disappears. A cart rumbles past, bound for Smithfield. Pigs and bodies. Stench clings to the stone. In Creechurch Lane, a constable checks on a report of a dead body left in a cart for 2 days. He finds the landlord instead. The man smiles, greets him by name. They talk like old friends. The report is misplaced. The corpse is gone by afternoon. The man walks through the Liberties, carries his ledger in one hand, a cane in the other. His coat is dyed crimson, a color reserved for knights in hire. The dye stains his cuffs. He wears it proudly. A woman kneels in his path, begging clemency. Her child is sick. She has no coin. He taps his cane once on the ground. To watchmen. Step forward. One is drunk, the other half-blind. They drag her away. Apprentices watch from a doorway. One mutters, "God will know." The man hears, but says nothing. That evening, a tenant collapses in the alley. His eyes are bloodshot. His neck is swollen with plague. The neighbors try to lift him, but the man arrives and orders them back. "Touch him, and I'll find the lot," he says. He returns hours later with his servant. The boy is told to search the man's room for coin. He finds half a groat. It's added to the ledger. The sick man dies that night. The room is rented again by dawn. London's streets are foul. Human waste runs down the gutters. Rats scurry. Underfoot, the landlord steps around it all. His boots are polished. His hands are clean. He visits the home of a vendor who's behind on rent. The woman sells ale, watered down to twice its volume. She lies and says she's paid. He produces her signature. She cannot read. She protests, but he says the contract is binding. The constable backs him. The woman weeps. He raises her rent. A boy delivers news. Another tenant dead. Another room to let. In the shadows, the boy who can read copies warnings from church doors onto scraps of wood and gives them to neighbors. He is careful not to be seen. The landlord hosts a dinner that night. 4 men arrive, minor clerks, and 1 city officer. They drink wine from across the channel and eat salted goose. They laugh at a case in Southwark where a man hanged for theft. The officer says the crowd jeered too loudly. Next time, there will be soldiers. They discuss taxes, plague bills, land rights. The landlord shows them a new deed. He's acquired a slum near Shoreditch. He will divide the rooms again, smaller, tighter, more profitable. One of the guests brings a girl. She cannot read or write. She asks no questions. The landlord eyes her with interest. Later, a neighbor finds the girl outside in the alley, bruised and weeping. No one intervenes. It's the landlord's alley. 2 days pass. The city grows quieter. Bells toll again. Watchmen pace slower. The Thames carries more corpses than cargo, where airymen row faster near the piers. Some wear cloths over their faces. At night the landlord counts his earnings. He charges a widow a fee for grieving too loudly. Calls it a disturbance. He dreams of a theater on the riverbank, where he will sell ale and rent stalls. City burns, and he grows rich on the ashes. In the streets below, the people whisper. The man in the crimson coat, the one with velvet cuffs and a dead man's cane. Do not say his name. They say he is watched. A constable sees too much. One of the apprentices goes missing. The brothel burns. None of it touches him. Not yet, but the bread tastes more like plaster. The ale is thinner. The boy with the bent foot limps slower each morning. Soon the crowds will gather, not for plague, but for blood. It rains. The gutters flood, pushing human waste into the alleys and doorsteps. Rats drown. The landlord watches from a window high above Creechurch Lane. He sees a body float past and wonders if it's one of his. Sends no one to check below. The street is quiet. Quieter than it should be. The death carts no longer clang. They glide, their wheels muffled in soaked straw. The bell ringers no longer announce each corpse. Their hands are blistered, their throats ruined. The landlord's servant coughs in his sleep. He hides it during the day. A mother approaches the landlord's door. Her eyes are sunken. Her child is dead. She carries him wrapped in linen, stained through. She begs for help. He refuses. She asks to leave him at the parish pit. He tells her to pay the leaving fee. She can't. He closes the door. The boy with the bent foot watches from the stair. He asks nothing. Later that morning, the landlord checks on his property in Whitechapel. A tenant there, a brewer, owes rent. The man is sick. Plague marks clear on his face. Still, the landlord enters the room holding a cloth to his mouth. He takes a jug of ale as payment. It tastes like rainwater. He leaves, boots untouched by filth. On the way back, he passes 3 night watchmen. They sleep against a wall. One's eyes are open. The landlord drops a coin in his lap. He tells him to ignore reports from Houndsditch that night. He plans to evict a family. That night, 3 apprentices gather behind a tavern. One is missing a front tooth, another a finger. They talk of the landlord, of the girl in the alley, the boy who vanished from Shoreditch. They say it aloud now. He should hang. They do not act. Not yet. Inside one of the landlord's worst tenements, an old man with a bent spine croaks psalms. Used to teach at a parish school. He still reads aloud when asked. Tonight he reads from a sheet handed to him by the boy who can read. Avoid the streets. Do not gather. Trust no promises. The others nod. They don't understand all of it, but the tone is enough. The landlord evicts 2 families that night. He arrives. With torchmen, they wear scarves against the smell.
Ow.
He points to a ledger. The women cannot read the marks, but know what they mean. One tenant shows him a coin. He laughs. Too late, he says. A cart carries them away. The children cry. The constable watches. He shrugs, says nothing. Back at his house, the landlord removes his coat. Tonight it is black with gold stitching. A merchant's coat, illegal for a man of his actual station. He has never been questioned. The tailor was paid well. He eats alone. Pickled eggs. Bread soaked in ale. The boy with the bent foot does not eat. A rat dies in the fire grate. The next morning, one of the evicted women returns. She's cut her hair, dirt on her face. She asks for work. He offers cleaning. She accepts. By evening, she is gone. No one sees her leave by the week's end. 6 more tenants die. One is buried without rites. Another is left on the doorstep of the landlord's servant's mother. A message. The landlord orders the alley cleaned. The Thames rises. The wary man. Fight for fares. To drown. The landlord buys another property with the money made from rent arrears and seized belongings. He does not remember the names of the former tenants. One of the apprentices who spoke against him is arrested for theft. Claims innocence. No one listens. He is whipped in the square. The landlord watches from under a parasol. That night a constable visits. He brings news. Another boy is missing. A tenant reports blood on the stairs. The landlord feigns concern. He writes the name in his ledger. The constable drinks wine and stays for supper. Leaves with a pouch of coin. The next day, 2 letters are posted on the door of a parish church. One is nailed high, a printed plague notice. The other is lower, written by hand. Shaky script. He feeds on rot. He wears death like cloth. He must be judged. The boy who can read sees it first. He copies it, shares it. A whisper begins. Asterisk, the rumors start to spread. Quietly, cautiously. No one dares say his name. But they talk of the man with gold cuffs. The one who evicts the dying, who raises rents when corpses are still warm in their beds. The whispers crawl through the city faster than the rats. At Tyburn, 2 men hang for robbery. A third for murder. A crowd gathers. Vendors sell pies and boiled eels. A preacher offers last rites loud enough for those in the back to hear. Some cheer, others spit. The gallows creak in the wind. The landlord passes through the edge of the crowd. He smiles at the show. Executions are business too. One of the condemned was a tenant once caught with stolen lace. The landlord had raised his rent 3 times in a month. He watches the man swing and says nothing. He visits Tower Hill, not for business yet. Just to look, the scaffold is stained dark. Men work nearby, scraping dried blood from the wood. The landlord asks about the cost of maintenance. The overseer shrugs. Cheaper than letting him rot, he says, back on his side of the river. Southwark stinks of summer rot. The plague is not gone, just hidden. Watchmen report fewer deaths, but the carts still run at dawn. The landlord inspects his properties. He collects coin from a widow whose children died last week. She offers buttons and a brooch. He takes them. Says they'll do until she can pay. She can't read the receipt he leaves at night. The boy with the bent foot wakes coughing blood. He hides the rag under the hearth. The landlord doesn't notice. The next morning, the landlord dons a new coat. Indigo velvet with silver buttons, reserved by law for knights. He is not a knight. He does not care. He walks through the marketplace. Even in plague, life goes on. Men sell rotting apples and half-dead fish. Preacher shouts from a crate. God's wrath walks in flesh. The landlord passes him, drops a coin in the man's basket. Irony, at Houndsditch, he finds a tenant. Trying to flee. A family of 4, packed into a handcart. He blocks their way. Says they can leave if they pay a fee for breach of contract. They argue. He orders their belongings seized, the boy cries. The mother slaps him. The constable watches. Shrugs again. That night, someone writes on his door in chalk, "You are watched." He scrubs it clean. Elsewhere, the boy who can read shares another message. He copies it 5 times. One is nailed to the church. Another slipped into the constable's hand. A third appears on the scaffold at Tower Hill. One man profits from plague. One man wears the dead. The watch begins to take notice. He's warned. A clerk, nervous and sweating, tells him, "They're asking about you." He laughs. Let them ask. 2 nights later, a fire breaks out in one of his tenements. Not large, but deliberate. His own servant's bed is burned. The boy survives, barely. His feet are blistered. He's sent to sleep in the alley. No doctor is called. The constables now walk slower past his buildings. They look away less often. Whispers reach the guild halls. Even the watermen are silent now. He hosts a dinner. Only one guest arrives. Kay, a man from the mayor's office. He eats in silence. The landlord boasts of new rents, of tenants packed shoulder to shoulder. The guest nods, but says little. As the candles burn low, he speaks. "They're building a list," he says. "Name's yours among them." The landlord narrows his eyes. "For what?" The man smiles. "For what they see." The next day, the boy with the bent foot disappears. Some say he ran. Others say the cart took him the day after. The landlord finds a tenant for hanging a blanket outside, calls it obstruction of air. She doesn't fight. She just nods. That night, the Church bells ring for a body found in the alley. No one claims it. The landlord passes the corpse on his way to supper. He steps over it. At Tyburn, new scaffolding is built. Tower Hill prepares for a summer spectacle. The crowd always grows when the weather's good. The preacher's voices louder now. Judgment walks in boots of velvet. They still don't name him, but they don't have to. It begins not with a riot, but with a list. The city officials call it the Ledger of Misdemeanors. It is drawn up quietly, names written in a borrowed hand. Some entries are vague: loiterers, Sabbath breakers, known ruffians. Others are more precise. One name is underlined 3 times. The landlord's. It is not the first attempt to bring him down. Tenants have begged before. Constables have shrugged. Churchmen have turned away. But now a new factor has taken hold. Reputation. Not his, but the city's. As plague drags into its second summer, with death tolls rising and rents rising faster, the cries of London's poor begin to reflect poorly on those in power. The mayor's office needs someone to blame. Someone not quite noble. Someone high enough to matter, but low enough to sacrifice. The landlord is perfect. He doesn't know it yet. He still wakes to the sound of church bells, cartwheels, the cracking cough of his new servant girl, who lasts just 6 days before. Collapsing on the stair, he steps over her body, marks her absence in his ledger. At midday, he walks through the stalls at Leadenhall. He wears a new coat, stitched with threads dyed deep crimson and trimmed in black squirrel fur. Both illegal. He's never cared more. A group of apprentices follows him. Silently, they say nothing. They do not need to. That evening, he dines alone. No guests now, no clerks, no officers. The wine is bitter. The bread is chalky. He eats by habit, not hunger. At the bottom of Creechurch Lane, a group gathers. No banners, no weapons, just bodies. 60, 70. All quiet, they stand outside his building, and one man, an apprentice, face half-covered, steps forward and reads from a page. For cruelty in time of plague. For theft of homes and flesh. For dressing above your station and profiting from death. You are named, you are chosen. The page is nailed to his door. No one moves to stop it. He watches from the window. He laughs. Fools, he says. Don't even know the law, but someone does. The next morning, 2 men arrive from the mayor's office. They wear black coats, carry scrolls sealed in wax. They read a warrant. It lists charges: violation of sumptuary law, extortion, unlawful evictions during plague quarantine, obstruction of burial processes, interference with guild practices, and public endangerment. He tries to speak. They do not listen. A constable, one of his old ones, steps forward and says, "You'll come with us." He's led through the street. No shackles, no cart, just a walk. The people part before him. Some spit, others stare. Stone it misses. They take him to the Guildhall. Trial is brief. Evidence is overwhelming. Witnesses line the walls. Prentices, mothers, even a watchman. He is found guilty on all counts. The sentence: public execution. Tower Hill, the scaffold already built. He spends one night in a cell beneath the courtroom. Smells of salt and ash. He sleeps poorly. At dawn, they lead him out. London is quiet that morning. Shops close. Even the brothels of Southwark shut there. Doors the death carts wait. The wherries rest on their oars. People fill the streets. Some climb trees. Others hang from balconies. The bells are silent. No need for their toll. At Tower Hill, the scaffold waits. He walks without stumbling. Boots are polished. His cuffs are clean. The crowd is dense. His faces blur together. Somewhere, the boy who could read is there, holding a copied pamphlet. He does not cheer. The preacher speaks the right. The landlord is asked to confess. He says only they paid me what they owed. Then the axe falls. Asterisk, the body is gone before. Midday, for men carry it from the scaffold at Tower Hill, wrapped in coarse cloth. There is no procession, no bell. The corpse is not buried on consecrated ground. It disappears into the city's underbelly, likely dumped outside the walls, near the pits where plague dead rot in layers. But the people do not forget. By evening, the landlord's name is scratched into tavern walls, scrawled in coal on doors. Whispered behind hands in the alleys of Whitechapel and Southern, they call him the Velvet Leech, the Crimson Man, the one who took too much. No one agrees on the details, but the message is clear. Someone like him can die in public now, in Creature's Lane. His properties stand empty, doors ajar, windows broken. The boy with the bent foot never returns. No one claims the buildings. The ledgers vanish. The rent stops. The constables who once served him walk quieter now. One resigns. Another is seen praying outside St. Sepulchre's Dots. As Dot Houndsditch, 3 families move back into one of the tenements. They say nothing. They pay no one. The girl sweeps the floor where her brother died last spring. A mother boils water without salt. A man patches a window with parchment. At the church near Bishopsgate, the preacher changes his tone. His sermon is short. Let this city remember who feeds on rot. Let this city remember who dies alone. Let the city remember that the axe falls hardest when the crowd is silent. The crowd is not silent. Whispers grow into mutterings, into shouts, not of rebellion, not yet, but of memory, of limits, of what happens when power meets fear and keeps pressing by the river. A new landlord tries to raise the rent on a stall. The fishmonger refuses, says only try it. Landlord walks away. In a print shop off Fleet Street, someone produces a single-page tract titled The Price of Velvet. It lists no names. It sells out by dusk. On Tower Hill, the scaffold is scrubbed clean, the wood dark with stain. The crowd doesn't gather the next day or the one after. But they remember how it felt, the silence before the blade, the tension. In the air, the apprentice, who once spat at the landlord, now walks with a straight back. He finishes his term, opens his own shop, keeps the rent low. The boy who could read vanishes from Southern. Some say he went north. Others claim he writes for the print shop now. In a city where most cannot read, he speaks louder than any bell.